Hi there, this is Spencer with Xima Software. Today's video is going to talk about using an ACO RingCentral queue to route calls to Xima CCaaS. The first step, of course, is creating a new queue within ACO RingCentral. We're then going to adjust that queue, a bit of the settings, to allow it to route to Xima CCaaS. The last step is going to be adding that queue name, or rather skill routing ID, to Xima CCaaS. We'll go to that point. Let's first jump in with an initial explanation. By default, we have a default skill group in which we send all calls to. So if the primary handset has a DID pointed to a single default skill, we can have that hit the default and then route it based upon the digit action within CCaaS. Now, in the case of multiple DIDs, you might want to route those things somewhere else, directly to a skill, if you will, or to another auto attendant, or really what have you. So this allows you to do that. Now keep in mind that when you do this, you need to front end everything with a queue within ACO RingCentral, and then point that queue, of course, to the primary handset of contact center. I'll show you the steps to do that, and we'll go through it right now. First step, phone system. Go to groups, go to call queues. Call queues are listed out here. Well, let's start a new one for the sake of testing. We'll call this routing to CCaaS via queue name. Okay, the extension is going to pop up here. 1241 is the next one on the line, but that could be whatever you want it to be, so go for it, and that's fine. A voicemail pin will be required, so we'll put a voicemail pin in here. There we go. Now it's listing out different extensions that exist here for managers. So let's just say Xima handset, that's the one we're going to use for our primary extension anyway. We'll just click full access, which is default. Click next. The next part is going to be, of course, the membership. Now we do have Xima handset 500 as the primary extension, which is where we're routing all of our calls to. It needs to be the sole member of that specific queue. So all calls are going to go to this primary extension, this handset. Okay, now as a reminder here, you might have multiple handsets. So if that's the case, look at the configuration. The top one that's in bold is going to be your primary handset. Make sure you route it directly to that handset specifically. Okay, you might have others that it allows you to have more than 4 simultaneous calls. If that's the case, that's fine. Just make sure it is pointed to, of course, the primary handset. Click done. Once the queue is created like this, you go to routing to CCaaS via queue name. There's a few things to be aware of right here. As I mentioned at the very beginning, you can route this via DID number. So if you want to put a DID here and have it route directly from this DID, which is a queue, over to CCaaS, you can do that. Okay, that's not required necessarily to do that. The next step, of course, is going to be greeting and hold music. Now, it's cleaner, in my opinion, to disable these. The call queue greeting and call hold music. Audio while connecting is fine. I think it's going to tell you that, look, it's ringing. So that shouldn't be a problem. The reason why I suggest this is because it's going to play a quick blip of music for the queue greeting and hold music before it hands off to our handset. So you're going to get a quick blip of a music or greeting, all of that stuff before it passes over to our primary extension, then play new music. So it won't finish the queue greeting. It'll just have a quick blip of a few seconds of RingCentral music, then of course our handset music. This way it's not going to do that. It's just going to be silent before it passes over, plays the CCaaS music, and you're good to go in that way. So that's why I suggest doing that. The next part is call handling and members. This is probably the most important section. So I set this to simultaneous. In addition to this, you need to make sure that you have the after call wrap-up time set to 0 seconds. Go ahead and click save. The next step is wait settings. This is secondary. It should not really apply. Within CCaaS, we have unlimited queue amount, unlimited duration. In ACO, there's limitation there. I just maxed this out as a precaution, but it really shouldn't come into application in regards to CCaaS, because what we're doing is we're taking this call immediately after it hands it off to us and passing it over to our queue, if you will, to indefinitely stay there. So this should not really apply, but I usually max it out just as a precaution. Okay, the next step, and probably the most important one, is the call information displayed. We are utilizing the information displayed from the queue itself, and we're using that information to tag the skill routing ID within Xima CCaaS. So for this video, I'm going to do a queue name, but you can route this based upon phone number. Okay, which is another more common explanation here. So the DID, so with a 1 in front of it, you can use that as a tag. In our case, we're going to use QName, which in this case, it's routing to CCaaS via QName, the extension 1241. We're going to use that description as a skill routing ID. And remember, that is the top field only. Second field is secondary. If you want to be able to see that information in our reports, in cradle to grave, historical, all that stuff, you can keep that as is. Typically, people like to do phone number, but you can put other different information here as needed. Okay, but QName is the one we're looking at for our tag. We'll click Save, and that's that. The final step, of course, is going to be doing this on the CCaaS admin portal. Pull this over here and go under Contact Center Configuration, Skill Management. For the sake of this, I'm going to add a skill in here. We'll just call this routing. And then down here, we'll put a skill routing ID. And this is the important part right here. We need to match this identically across the board for our QName. Remember, we're using the QName in order to route this. Now let's, just for precautionary, let's look back here. What is it called? Routing to CCaaS via QName. So QName and routing are all capitalized. So let's do that. Okay, it's a pretty long skill routing ID. I'll give you that. But just as an explanation here, you need to make sure that you have everything matched identically here. No spaces, capitals, everything matches across the board. And this is numeric or letter, okay? Alphanumeric. There we go, click OK. That is how you route calls based upon a skill routing identifier specifically for QName. Remember, if you do this for phone number, do the same thing. The only thing you do here is add in the skill routing ID that has 1, then the number, which is the DID for that specific route, okay, or that queue, if you will, to get to CCaaS. But as this call comes in, as digit action is pressed, or as the DID is dialed for this queue, it'll route directly to this skill. Now, I'm not going to go into how you create this skill, set this up. That's another video. But if you want more information on that, feel free to open that video and take a look at that. Thanks for watching.